morning, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar on eTakeoff and estimating. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone is in listen-only mode, so if you have a question, please type it into the questions box and we will address them at the end of the session. This webinar will be recorded and everyone will receive a copy and a copy. I will now turn it over to you, Rob Napa.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. And what we're going to review today is eTakeoff Dimensions Premier with Bridge to Sage Estimating. And with us today is Curtis Peltz, and he's the CEO of eTakeoff, and he's logged in with us from the West Coast, so it's pretty early for him. Be gentle. And what we're going to do is go through the process of taking off with eTakeoff and showing you the capabilities of that. So I've asked Curtis to join us since he's the expert at it. Now this is going to be an overview because we can't get into the full depth and breadth of the product in an hour. So we expect that there will be quite a few folks that are going to want more information on the software and the process that we'll be presenting to you. And we will follow up with you and have individual web meetings with you or even on-site meetings if it comes to that after today or even later today. Again, Krista said if you have any questions, please type it into the box and we will review those questions toward the end of the presentation. So what I'll do now is turn it over to Curtis, and he'll walk us through the process. And again, any questions, type it into the box. Again, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Curtis,
thank you, Rob. Well, let's start right in. We will try to make this relatively quick, and then maybe we can do some Q&A at the end. So eTakeoff is a company that specializes in estimating takeoff software. We have about 4,700 users. McGrawhill did a selection a few years ago, searched the market for takeoff software for their plan room, Dodge plan room, and selected eTakeoff as a standard for their plan room, their Dodge plan room, and ended up with over 12,000 people who downloaded that utility for doing the takeoff on the Dodge plans. So there's wide acceptance of the product. We actually have 3 product levels. There's a free basic product, which is very useful because you can use it throughout the office to review what the estimators have done in their takeoff. You can put it out on the job site. The project manager can review what the estimators have done, as well as do a simple takeoff at a time. It doesn't store takeoffs and doesn't have all of the functionality of the production takeoff tools, but it does give you a complete viewer and printer and allows you to do single estimate or single takeoffs if you wish to do some modifications or something, you know, at the job site. So it's a very powerful product for that. Then we have Advanced and Premier, and there are basic functionality differences between those products that we can get into in more detail when we talk to you about the product line. But there are a couple levels. You don't have to go all the way into the highest level of the product, and you can always start at the Advanced and upgrade to the Premier, or in fact even mix and match them within your office depending on specific needs that you have. So let's talk about what makes us different. There are a lot of takeoff tools in the market. We think we're different in 3 ways. Ease of use, I think we have better technology, and we think we innovate a little bit more than maybe the average bear. So let's talk about those. Ease of use, it's difficult to maybe claim ease of use because everybody does, I'm sure, but at least in this case we have an objective viewpoint from the outside. Software Advice did a review, had a contest of different takeoff software products, and they said that our takeoff was selected as one of the best designed construction takeoff UIs on the market. So it's nice to get that from an outside point of view. Of course, as I said, that stuff is subjective, but I think that we'll illustrate a few things that we think make our software easier to use. I think we have better technology. This is important because what's underlying the software will determine how well this functions for you and works day to day. Number one, we do have a true database architecture underlying the system. Not all takeoff systems do. Some systems use a series of XML files, for instance, and every measurement is a separate little file on the system. And these are scattered throughout the project library. And the more of these you have, the more files you have to open. The more files you open, the slower your system gets. As you add more drawings, as the drawings get more complex, you begin to slow down. Of course, you don't realize that until you're into true projects and working at a larger level of use, and pretty soon that non-database architecture comes back to haunt you. So very important to have a true database structure underneath. All of the measurements you do are completely backed up as you do them, so that you can recover immediately if something requires that. Also, very important, we work with PDF files natively. I would guess about 90 to 95% of the drawings you see these days are PDF files. But most software, when you load a project with PDF files, converts those PDF files to TIFF, which is the format that they use for doing some of their takeoff work, etc. The problem is that takes time. So in our example, we have maybe about 100 PDF drawings in the sample that we're using today. That would take you 20 to 25 minutes to convert before you can even begin the project. And you'll find this is quite common throughout this type of software. We, in fact, use PDF files natively. That means you do not need to convert. We can start that same project in about 10 seconds. So you save a tremendous amount of time in terms of just starting projects without having to wait for the system to convert everything to TIFF format. That's actually unique to us. 3, multi-user. This is completely unique to eTakeoff also. We have true multi-user capability. Many systems don't even allow multiple estimators in the same project. You have to create separate projects and merge them later, etc. If you are using a network and sharing the files, etc., across a network, then you literally can have multiple estimators in the same project, even on the same drawing at the same time, and we will manage all of that work. There'll be no collisions, etc. Client-server technology. We're the only company that provides client-server technology. When you are working on a network, the thing that is different about takeoff software versus spreadsheets or even estimating systems is that you're working with a lot of graphic information. Graphics slows your system down. It's a heavy load to transfer that stuff throughout the network. And what you get many times is, depending on how many people are on the network, how large your network is, how efficient the network is, excuse me, you run into what's called latency. And that's maybe best exemplified when you start a takeoff and you click on a measurement and you try to go to the next measurement and nothing happens and you think nothing's taken, so you click again and you click again, and pretty soon the first or second or third click gets through, and then you're of course way ahead of it and you have to back up and all kinds of stuff that's related to what's called latency. Client server is a technology that's provided by the database manufacturer that we use, and it enables you to improve the network integrity significantly when a program does a call to read some information off the disk drive. That might actually result in 10, 20, 30 different actual disk reads, physical disk reads that are taking place. That all has to go back and forth over that network, and you get packets going across the network, and of course you have greater potential for loss and speed loss and so forth. Client server aggregates those. So if the computer or the software makes a call, client server will aggregate the call. It looks at what the software needs. It goes out to the disk drive that's local. It does all 10, 20, 30 reads right there. Then it sends one response back to the software with that answer. So you can save a tremendous amount of time or productivity gains that's going on in that network. So very advanced technology, not available in most other systems. Last, we also have a true license manager. Many of these software products allow you to move the license physically. You can uninstall the license, move it to another computer, and reinstall the license and move your software that way. But that's not a true license manager. A true license manager will manage your license so that if you purchase 3 licenses of the software, you can install the software all over the world if you want, And then when you start the product up, when you start up eTakeoff, the license manager will simply ensure that only 3 uses at a time are being used, and it will manage that use for you and enable you to get the greatest bang for the buck, because you don't have to purchase as many copies as you have people. So you could have 3 licenses managed, used by maybe 10 people, and the system will manage that on any computers that they're on. So that's a very powerful tool also. And that kind of comprises a bit of the technology advantage, I think. Something there that is unique, and some of these capabilities simply don't exist in other Takeoff products. And then last, I think that we innovate a bit more. We have an intelligent assembly capability, which is unique. There are many products that do not have a real powerful assembly capability. We have a very powerful search or auto count capability for searching symbols, etc., across the drawings. So much so, in fact, that parts of it are patented. Multiple scales on the same drawing. We're the only people, we believe, that do that currently in any of the leading products. Excel integration, many products claim Excel integration, but it's not necessarily very easy to use. I'm going to show you a little bit of how that works and how easy it is to build something up in Excel. If you're using Sage Estimating, we also have an integration to Sage called Bridge, which is also unique in the industry. It's the first time that a true integration has been provided between 2 different software products, between Estimating and Takeoff, that gives you complete manual all the way to automatic control of what is sent over to the estimating system. Many people use Takeoff products. They don't integrate well with their estimating. They literally do all the Takeoff, print it out, and type everything back into the estimating system. And we think that's a bit archaic, hence the concept of Bridge. And then we're also working on BIM integration. If any of you are into BIM and working with BIM systems, Navisworks, Assemble Data, that kind of thing, those companies are integrating with Bridge, and that's something we could talk to you about in another session if you're interested. So let's move on, and I'm going to go to the product, eTakeoff Dimension. This is our Takeoff product, and we're looking at the premier level of the product. So let's talk about ease of use first. We have incorporated the complete ribbon bar system from Microsoft 2010 standard. It's one of the only products that actually uses a Microsoft standard ribbon bar. Other people have replicated ribbon bars, but this would be very familiar to you if you already use Word or Excel or that kind of thing. It's the very same standard. In trying to make this easier to use, we also have incorporated certain kinds of help tools to do that. So one thing is, if you take your cursor and just hover over a button, we will open up a tooltip for you which explains how that button works. And you'll note also at the bottom, we also give you keyboard shortcuts. Now, you don't need to do the keyboard shortcut to make the software work. You can right-click anywhere you want and get a context menu that, of course, gives you options. However, once you start using the software and you start becoming proficient at it, we want to make sure that this product is something that becomes a productivity tool for you, and there's nothing faster than using your left hand, for instance, on the keyboard for specific shortcuts, and using the right hand of the mouse, for instance, for those of you that are right-handed, and gain productivity because you simply don't have to move your mouse around as much. You can use a simple keystroke to do some things that will save you time. But again, you don't have to do it, but they're there to help remind you, and in time you've used them a couple times, and pretty soon it becomes second nature. And of course, you can just hover wherever you are, and we'll give you a tooltip about how to use that button. In addition, if you want more information, if that doesn't give you enough, then we have this context help button over here on the right. Simply click that, and then, for instance, you don't know what the two-point line is, or that tooltip isn't enough information, simply click on it, and we'll open up the help system to that point. So you don't have to go through and do all kinds of searches, or looking at the index, or looking at the table of contents. If you've used search tools before, we will set you right into the tool or the help system at the most appropriate level. You can also use that on sections, like the Takeoff section, or you could even use that on the tabs. Anywhere you want. You want to know about settings tab, how does that work? We'll take you into the settings tab, etc. So a very powerful tool that gives you much more help, more specifically, much more quickly. Then two, we also use what's called the Quick Access Toolbar. Quick Access Toolbar is a Microsoft tool that isn't always activated in all software, but we think this is a very powerful tool because it enables you to learn the software. Once you learn it, to optimize some shortcuts for you so you don't have to move around as much. Again, these are all things that help you use the software, and then as you get used to it, help you become even more proficient. So a ribbon bar concept is great, but you do have to move to different tabs to accomplish things, and sometimes that gets in the way. So what the Quick Access Toolbar does is, for instance, if I'm at settings and I use the Edit Layers button quite a bit, and I click that button to turn this dialog on, etc., I don't like moving back and forth all the time. But what I can do is I can just put the cursor on the button, right-click, and say Add it to the Quick Access Toolbar. And now there it is. I can be in any tab, on my home tab, where I'll probably be doing 90% of my work, and jump to that button anytime I want as a shortcut. And you can move these around, and you notice even the tooltip is still active on those buttons. And of course, as I said, you can edit these and move things around and so forth. So a nice little touch, and that is something that just makes your software more useful to you down the road as you become more proficient. Now, in terms of actual use, let's take a look at the ribbon bar itself. We have the first section is a project section. Here, you set up a new project. What that entails, if you read the tooltip there, basically is that you simply put all of the drawings you're going to be using under a folder, just under a simple folder name, a Windows folder, and then tell us where that folder is. You just point to where those drawings are, and then we will at that point use those drawings. We never copy them, modify them in any way. We simply use the drawings in a way that lets us take all of the information, all the takeoff you do, etc., and put it into the database where it is stored. So we do all of the takeoff, annotations, etc., separately. We do not mess with the drawings. We simply point to them. So setting up a new project is very simple. Just put your drawings in a folder, tell us where that folder is, give the project a name, and you're off and running. And as I said, once you start that process, you don't need to go through all of that conversion, which can take you 20 minutes or more depending on the size of your project. So I got 100 drawings here, so again, we can start this project up in about 10 seconds, and that becomes very important. And you notice, as I said, I'm using PDF drawings, and you notice these are in their PDF format. If you've ever used a TIFF drawing, you'll note that when you zoom in, the lines get very fuzzy, you get a lot of pixelation, things break up, etc. Here with the PDF, you get very tight lines, very tight formations all the way through to the zoom level so that you can be more accurate in your takeoff and pointing and so forth. So, and again, you know, you simply double click over here to change a drawing, for instance. This becomes a very powerful way to use the system effectively so you don't have all this delay time up front. Then next we have the navigation section. There are many navigation controls here, but you may not even use most of them. You can simply get around your drawings very, very quickly by either putting the cursor wherever you want and then just hitting the wheel and zoom in with the wheel. And so that's a very quick way to go in and out of the drawing and move around to different positions. And if you are zoomed in, you just click on the left or right mouse buttons, cursor changes in its format, and then of course you can scroll and pan across the drawing, etc. So very easy to get around, and that really constitutes most of your navigational work. Although, as I said, there are other tools up here if you want to use them. The takeoff section gets in how we do our takeoff. Measurement edit section is how we edit measurements after the fact if you'd like to change things. And then here's your scale. The scale tool gives you standard scales you can choose. You can, you know, set up a scale to be a known distance, right, and then have the system automatically scale to that. You can normalize the scale that it generates so that it is very, very close to a standard scale, because you can't be absolutely perfect in how you click on these dimensions. Then it will automatically scale to a normal scale that's very close to what you generate, or you can even just type in the scale. A lot of different ways to get scale into the system. And then just in terms of use, when we start looking at how the system is used, we try to set up an interface that makes it easier for you to understand the workflow just by looking at the screen. So the drawing is always in the center, and then we have two control panels. These can be moved. You can just undock these if you wish, move them anywhere you want. You can put them on another monitor. We have 4 of these control panels. The system starts up with 2 of them. You can have 2 more. You can add many, many different controls and turn them on and off for all of these control panels. And so you can customize the look here. But when it comes to you, it comes in this sequence where you see your drawings in the lower left-hand corner, and moving clockwise, you pick a drawing by just double-clicking on it, and then you select your drawing type, or I'm sorry, your measurement type. These are different measurements. Area, count, length, perimeter are the standards. These are the same, but the system does come with a complete series of Takeoff tools that you can customize, use, ignore, build your own, complete options for you there. But it does come with a complete set that you can use as a starting point, or take what we offer you and start working with that. But these are different measurement types. You pick a measurement type, you go do your measurement. The result is stored over here in the quantity list, so you can immediately see the result of that. And then on the bottom panel on the right, lower right, clockwise, we have the measurement summary, which gives you a summary of all the measurements on this drawing. And if you'd like to see all the measurements in the project, you can simply click the measurement list button, and it will open up a window of all the measurements that exist in this drawing, some of which I already have here. And you can sort this. You can sort the columns. You can insert new columns. You can summarize. You can section this thing off with different levels. You can float this so it's always on top. Many different things. And once you've got a format set up, you can save it. And so you can create an entire list of reports, you might say, different ways to look at your estimate and so forth, and your takeoff. And that's all done in the measurement list. This crosses all of the project boundaries. So it goes across all drawings and shows you all takeoff on those drawings. So again, the takeoff methodology is clockwise. You take a drawing, select a drawing, double click on it, select a measurement, go do the measurement, result is over here, and then going clockwise, we end up with the summary of everything on that drawing in the lower right corner. So that's an overview of how the system's used. It's actually pretty easy to get around, and once you use this for a couple measurements, etc., you'll start feeling quite at home. So let's start, and let's just show you a little bit of what we do here. The issue with software is that it's to make you, the point is to make your life easier. We're not here to try to make your life more complex with a tool that is difficult to engage with. So the idea is to make your life easier. And what I'm going to do is just start with a simple area and just show you that and there are many different ways to set this up. I'm just going to draw a rectangle here on some stuff. And you'll notice that what we do when we do a measurement, and I have this set up, of course, in a freehand form. You could have rubber banding as I do. You can have crosshairs, many different ways to set this up. You can set it up so that you can automatically have the system go into what's called a snap mode with different degrees, or you can make it freehand just with the click of a button. And so again, this can all be customized by you. And you can set up default setup so that you're always in snap mode, for instance, and then you revert with a click of a button to freehand. So when you're finished with the measurement, remember what we set up here. And notice a shortcut. I can go out and start another measurement, which will terminate this. But if I press the S or Enter key to stop the measurement, then we are complete with that measurement, and the results are shown here in the quantity list. So you can see here I have 4 corners. I have a length, a perimeter, and an area. We always give you 4 pieces of information. And you may ask, well, what's the difference between the length and the perimeter? If we look at a room here, for instance, when I start the measurement, notice as I go around, and if you're looking for a point, you can simply hold the cursor down and it will let you get more accurate in your measurement. It'll zoom in for you automatically if you want to do that type of thing. But in any case, here I've done my measurement. I've stopped at the door. You notice I have not included the door because we then get the length, which is the actual length of the measurement itself, as well as the perimeter, which is this closed line. The reason we do that is because the more information we can give you here, the more powerful this becomes when you start working with an assembly, for instance, in which you can use this information to generate other things. So, for instance, the length is useful because I could use that for the baseboard, for instance. I could use the perimeter for the crown molding, for instance, and I can use the area, you know, for whatever might be carpet, whatever in that room. But with one measurement, I get all of this information, which then can be used to generate more information, more elements and parts of an assembly, for instance. So that becomes important. Otherwise, you have to do two measurements to get that information. We don't want you to have to do that. So that's the concept there of delete that measurement. So we've done our measurement. Very simple. You can color code these. You can do hash marks. You can do all kinds of things in identifying your takeoff. But the key is that this gives you a visual representation of what you've done. Now, the problem is when you start using this kind of software, you run into situations where you realize you don't want these all to be the same area. You'd like to define them more accurately, and so many times you're then sent off into maintenance, and you have to go into the maintenance mode and build all this stuff and so forth. We want to make that easier for you. So you notice under the options here, the shortcuts, we have a Z key. Oh, actually, let me show you one other thing. The D key, the measurement description. That's again, you can right-click and you can find the description and modify it, but also with just a flip of a key, you can say this is section 1 or bathroom or some location, and then instantly you now have that designed, allocated, and numbered or identified for you, so you can see that it's under an area type measurement, but it's section 1, and it's just a keystroke away to get that done. Also, to enable you to move along faster and start building this library, at the bottom of the list, we have a Z key for easy trace creation. What that lets me do is say that, well, this is an area, but it really is slab on grade, type 2, for instance, and I would like to make this, let's say, diagonal lines, and let's use, make it orange, and let's maybe modify the transparency a bit. And now, when I click OK, this is instantly transformed. And you'll note now it is slab on grade type 2 under section 1, or it's still section 1. However, what's most important is I've now created a brand new takeoff measurement, a trace we call it. And this trace can be used now across all projects. It's permanent, it's part of your database, and you do not need to do anything else. So, I mean, you could just use this immediately somewhere else in the drawing. Let's go out here to this pool and just double click. And now instead of using the area measurement, I have a new measurement I can use, and we simply go around the new object here, the new takeoff. By the way, I am using the curve capability, so I'm going to the beginning, the middle, and the end of the curve, then just press the C key, and the system will calculate the curve for you, and you have options to set up how many samplings you want around that curve, etc. But there's our pool, and then I can again press the D key and say this is section 2 or whatever, and you notice now I've got section 1, double click on it, takes me to that measurement, section 2 takes me to that measurement, and I'm already moving along with my own customized takeoff trace. So very quick to make modifications, change things, etc. Now in getting a little deeper, let's look at how we can make this more powerful. It's very easy to do takeoff in terms of tracing things. All these products trace. They all do it, or they wouldn't be takeoff systems. So I can't draw a rectangle any faster than the next guy. However, what I do want to show you is something that is not easily available in other systems, and that has to do with our assembly capability. So let's go to frame and drywall, and I'm going to grab this 2x4 wall. Notice what happens here as I do this wall. The difference now is that instead of just your point, length, perimeter, and area, I have several other parameters now. I put in the wall height, and maybe I want 2x4 stud spacing. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, 24-inch stud spacing, and maybe number sides too. And let's put in a sheet size, and we will generate the track, the studs, the drywall, and the sheet count. So you immediately can begin to see the power of having a simple takeoff start generating complete estimating assemblies for you, and generate anything you want out of here that you can mathematically derive out of the information at hand. So it's a very powerful tool and enables you to start doing much more powerful takeoff, generate more items, and then at the same time, if you're using Excel, we can show you how you can export this into Excel and get the best benefit of having all of this information out to Excel. Many systems will generate just these quantities, and you have to do all kinds of crazy work in Excel to get something done. Here, we generate inside the system, and it's much easier to take that out to Excel if you want. If you're using an estimating system, and of course all of that stuff transfers, such as Sage. Now, let's talk about a little bit more in terms of what software can do for you. The Takeoff software, as I said, everybody measures, but it's what it does beyond that that makes the difference in terms of you being productive. And so in this case, you notice this ability to have an assembly is a very powerful capability to take your Takeoff into the next level. In addition, we have other tools that make your life easier, because as you start working with electronic drawings, you'll begin to realize there's much more at hand in terms of the things I need to do and I need to manipulate in this electronic world. So, for instance, I have a problem. I've got a second floor, and I have all this Takeoff I've done. I have a multi-story building. I'd like to do a third floor, fourth, or whatever it might be. How do I get these measurements transferred so I can just copy these over, etc.? Well, we have a tool we call Favorites. Favorites is a mechanism that lets you do that kind of thing, where you have repetitive work that you need done. You simply use the Favorites tool. The way this works, I'm going to go into the multi-select mode, and I'm simply going to grab all of those measurements. And now that I've grabbed them, I'm just going to take them and drop them into the project favorite. All 207 measurements are now here, and I'm going to right-click, change the name, and we'll call this the master floor. And now I have an identifier which represents all these measurements. If I go to the third floor, and let's just zoom in here a bit, I will grab this entire set and simply drop it over. You see the outline. Drop it in place, and all of those measurements will be then transferred over to the third floor. They're all individual. They're all still there. You can grab each one, modify it, do whatever you want with it. But it's a very quick way to move things around or duplicate things in your Takeoff. And this can be used in a variety of ways. For instance, you can also, let's go to annotations and say we want to put in a text. And up here, let's say this is approved. Now, once I've used that text here, I can grab that and I can drop it into the global favorites. And what global favorites, project favorites means that everything that you have done here is saved so it can be used anywhere on this project. However, the global favorite says use this across projects. So as I move across projects, let's go to a different floor here, a different Takeoff. I can simply drop this wherever I want, reuse this, build a complete library. Those will be there across all projects. Once I've stored it in the global favorite, it is not relegated to just this project as the project favorites are. And then even another use for the project favorites, you know, when I did this Takeoff, let's go back to our frame and drywall. Note, when I do the Takeoff, I have all of these answers that I need to provide. And as you do that, that provides an opportunity for error, because anytime somebody's typing in things, you've got, you know, key transposition and all of these things that might affect your accuracy. So to remove that area of error, you could simply take that standard wall, let's say, that you're going to be using, and just grab it and drop it into the project favorite, and we'll just say that this is a standard wall type 2 or whatever. And now, as I do my Takeoff, instead of going over here to the standards and grabbing the standard trace and double-clicking and then having to answer all these questions, etc., I could now use this wall definition, just double-click over here. And now when I do my Takeoff, notice that the Takeoff is there, everything's been taken off, but all of the answers have been provided because you are using that as a standard wall type, so you do no longer have to answer these variables for this particular Takeoff. Saves you a tremendous amount of time, but also it saves you from errors, so that's a very powerful tool also. We'll delete that measurement too. Now, in going a little bit further, we'll talk about some other tools. For instance, if you count a lot, depending on what kind of contractor you are, if you're a GC and self-perform, or let's say that you're electrical and you've got Takeoff or something that you need to perform by counting objects, then it becomes very important to have a tool that lets you do that in a productive manner. The trick is with these counting tools, and they're called auto count, pattern search, etc. The science is inexact. You are not working with a CAD drawing with objects that can quickly be found. You're just working with ink, black on white, really, just ink. And so the system has to analyze the drawings to find the matches for you. And many times as you do that, you will find that some systems simply return the count to you, and here's the count, and you have to trust it. As an estimator, it's very important that you can quantify what you see, that you can use the information, trust it, and then go forward. If you can't trust it, the benefit of the automation doesn't help you much. But we know that this is a task that requires an estimator's interaction. So we're on a drawing here. Let's say that we want to find, let's see, what should we do? Let's go out to fire and security, and we will look for smoke detectors. So what I'll do is I will go to our what we call pattern search, auto count, different terms. I'm going to go in to create a search rectangle. I can do a polygon to isolate very, very specifically parts that I want to search. And I can search a whole drawing, but then I'm searching all of this too, and that's just a waste of time, all that text. So we will search by creating a search rectangle. We'll call this the master search area. And we will simply tell the system that we will search within the confines of that. And then I can turn that off by clicking outside of it and bring it back if I need to. But that's the search area I'll use. So now let's start our search. So it says draw a rectangle around the pattern. So we just give you some help there, and we'll zoom in here. And here's a smoke detector for us. We draw a rectangle around it. The system shows us the pattern that we are going to be searching for. I'm going to search immediately. We can also search in the background. I'll explain that in a bit. And we'll use that master search area. We already are looking for smoke detectors because that's where I was when I started. If I click the select button, I have everything available, all the measurement types, and I can count whatever I want to specify. So I'm ready to search. So I start the search, and the system goes through and finds every match it can. And it presents them to me so that I can see visually what I found. And in this case, you notice as you look through the list, we have one that's very close but not the same as the heat detector. So I'm going to turn that off. Just click on it. And everything else seems to look good, but I'd like to review this on the drawing. So I get a chance to go out and look at these on the drawing. You can see wherever they're found. You can see this one here, for instance, in red is that heat detector. I can double click and turn it back on or off, but that's in red because we turned it off. And so you see every location that the system found, but we want to go a little bit deeper. Let's go back, just resume, and we click the button again. And the last thing we want to do is we want to analyze this in more depth. So we have a very unique tool here that allows you to expand the display area. It doesn't change the count or the results of the count, but it says if you got, wire attachments or cables or something that are hooked up to a fixture or whatever, and you want to get more information about it, you can expand that so we can see more around each of these things that what we found, and you can analyze them in more depth and see if there's something with something surrounding this that's important, whether it's cables or whatever it might be. And in this case, as you search through, you notice one of these is different from the others. Again, because I made my search so tight, you miss this SA, which is really an auxiliary smoke detector. So I need to turn that off too. So the rest of this looks pretty good. Now, in a lot of systems, when you save this, you would then have to start completely over to start your search on your heat detector and then start all over again with your auxiliary, etc. But in our case, we can say, well, let's save and continue. So save everything that you've isolated as a smoke detector. There's your count. And then we're going to come in and we're going to say, let's look for the auxiliaries. So I'm going to go out here and select my auxiliary smoke detector, and we will save those. And I'm left with my heat detector, and I will find my heat detector symbols, and I will save those, and now we have our counts, and you can see across the drawing, color coding and so forth of all of the symbols that it found. So this is a very powerful way to do a search, and not many systems do this in this same manner. Now, maybe just one other thing here. Let's look at WBS codes. We have a very powerful tool for setting up WBS codes that lets you code everything you do in Takeoff with different codes that you can set up, bid item building, change order, etc. And as you take off, you can create and open the work breakdown tool, which then lets you see everything that you're doing in your Takeoff. So if we go back, and allows you to code it. So if we go back here for any of the Takeoff we did, you will see all of the master list of work breakdowns. If you want to isolate these differently by job, you can do that. So you only see a subset of these. And then you can fill this in either automatically by virtue of it defaulting on the measurement you're using, which is possible, or you can fill them in at the time that you do the Takeoff. So you can go in here and say that this is change order 2 or whatever it might be. You could also code this differently. You could say maybe that this is, let's see here, what do we do? Let's do a zone 35 or something of that nature, and code it. And then as you code this information, this is all encoded in all of your Takeoff throughout the project. You can then sort this down. You can look at this in different ways. You could even, for instance, let's go to the second floor, and let's just select very quickly one portion of the Takeoff. And that particular section, we want to say that this is zone 55 for those objects. So these are all categorized as zone 55 at this point. I'm going to also, let's turn off our favorites here, and I'm going to also open up the filters. And so the filtering now says, and we'll turn off our coding here. So let's go back and go into our single selection mode so we don't see that anymore. So now I have those objects coded, and later I'd like to find them. I can use the filtering. So at this point, I go in and say, well, let's find everything that's zone 55, and then show it to us. And it will now highlight only those items. Everything else disappears, and you see only those Takeoff items that match that code. And then, of course, you can come in there and simply click the select button up here. It will select all of those items for you automatically. Then you can go back into your work breakdown structure and say that, in fact, those are now zone 77. And now those have all changed to zone 77. So it's a very, very powerful way to organize the information in your Takeoff and still filter and see that information differently on your plans. So that's a complete WBS structure, which again is unique to our product. We don't know of anybody else who does WBS code filtering and so forth. Then maybe yes.
Can I interrupt you for one second?
You bet.
The one thing with pattern search is also that you can search multiple pages. After Curtis was done, he could have asked eTakeoff to go to the other electrical drawings and count all of the heat detectors and smoke detectors on those pages, and it would actually run through that counting in the background while you were performing your WBS work.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good point. I forgot to mention that. We not only do all the work that you saw in the pattern search, but we uniquely also are able to do that in the background. And so you can do as many searches as you want initially, just as Rob said. Then you can select 5, 10, 15 different searches across as many drawings as you want. You get to select the drawings, etc., for each search, and then just say go, and it will search in the background throughout all of those drawings while you will return to the foreground to continue your Takeoff work. And that is absolutely unique and a huge time saver. Most systems simply require you to sit through the process as it goes through and does all these analysis and so forth and searching. Here, you can preset it, get it all set, do your searching, and then go back to your Takeoff and let it go in the background, then analyze everything later. So thank you for that, Rob. Good point.
Mm-hmm.
Then let's see. I think what I'll do very quickly here is show you a bit of how you can get to Excel. If you're using Excel, you're not using Sage Takeoff. Excel integration, a lot of people claim, to have Excel integration, but But how you do it is what's important, because just because you have it doesn't mean it's easy to use. It just means you can click a box in marketing and say, we integrate to Excel. Then you find out when you use it, it's a nightmare. Well, we've tried to set this up so it's easy to do and very powerful at the same time. So for instance, instead of just getting a measurement and so forth, if you're working with this assembly, you really can transfer all of this information out. You can create bills of materials. You could create, the takeoff structure in terms by assembly. A lot of different options for you. But here's how it works. It's very simple. I have created a template, an empty template, that defines this 2x4 wall. This is just text. I've just typed these things in to relate to what we have up here. But when you actually want to set this up, what you do is you set up your complete template just like this, and then you start filling this. And for instance, in this case, I want to use the length in that 2x4 wall, so I'm going to grab the length up here, and we're just going to drop that into Excel and put it right here. You know what? I probably have already created this template. Normally, I'm sorry, I had actually been playing with this earlier, and I had created the links to this so that these links are actually in the project. Normally, when you create this, it will create an empty link here the very first time in, because we want to save this as a template we can use over and over. But because I've got this set up for this project, it already knows the numbers, and so it's dropping them in as I grab them. So we'll just continue with this. We can take the track, and let's drop the trap in. And let's go for the studs, and we'll do the same thing here, and then let's drop in the drywall, and let's also drop in the sheet count. Now, I can, again, set this up in any manner that I wish, but the key is that all of this information is coded for me and tagged, and now it remembers the locations of all of this, and you can store this as a standard template. The next time you get on a different job, you can load this template in, and then you can go to the add-in for eTakeoff, and you can say, select the project, and once you select the project, it will take the numbers for that project and drop them right in here into the spreadsheet according to this format. So if we did more Takeoff, let's go back out here and do our let's see, frame and drywall maybe. Where were we here? Grab that same thing, do the Takeoff, and let's say put in our wall, etc. Then as I go back into the spreadsheet, if I simply go to the add-in and I say refresh the quantities, it will refresh everything that you have set up here and combine both count to one set and continue to update this, so that if you want to modify, change the length, whatever you might do, all of that is reflected here and automatically updated for you. So to create your initial spreadsheet template is very simple by just dragging and dropping things in, and once that's set, you can reuse that template for any other job in the future, and it will summarize and total things by type, etc. Or of course you have complete freedom to separate those things out and make them individual. So let's talk one more thing. Let's talk about Bridge. This is the tool that, if you are using an estimating system, is a very, very powerful way of integrating information over to Sage. So let's go out to a Takeoff that I've pre-done here. I've used in this Takeoff another set of Takeoff tools that is also part of a Sage database. You can get Sage databases that are completely preset, and all of this information is all set up inside eTakeoff and ready to be used. So in this case, I had done this same thing. I have a very simple assembly here, and you note that I'm creating the same type of object, and it's a very simple assembly with a concrete strength and wire mesh, and I just pre-did several of these little slab sections. So you can see as I move through these, I have the concrete strength wire mesh, and so that spec is changing. Some are 4,000, some are 3,500, etc. So this is simply some Takeoff I pre-done, and the goal now is to get this over to Sage Estimating. So instead of printing all this out and typing it back in, we want to use a tool called the Bridge. When you start Bridge, Bridge is a product that is a separate program that runs between your Takeoff project, and your Sage estimating system. Now, I've already created an empty estimate out in Sage estimating, and I want to link these two together, and Bridge says, hey, you don't have a bridge associated. It's creating a bridge, which is a link between this Takeoff project and the estimate that I want to assign to it, or it to. So it's simply saying you don't have a bridge set up, which is true, and I'd like to create a link, so I'm going to say yes, and we'll say this is the La Quinta building. Sorry, and we will go out here and grab our estimate file, and then let's. It already fills in the project name because it knows where we're coming from. So when I say OK, what Bridge will do is it'll go out to the Sage estimating database, and it will find all of the assemblies or all the items that exist in that database and bring them into Bridge for you. Now I'm going to go out here to the assembly, and I'm going to look for that same assembly that I used when I created this, a 105 slab on grade, and there we have it. And what I'll do is actually, let me check one thing here. I want to check to see if I have history assigned here. I don't, and this is good. So now what I'll do is I'll grab this measurement, let's say, and I want to send this over to the Sage system. All I need to do is grab the measurement and drop it on that assembly. And when I drop it on the assembly, Bridge goes out to Sage, finds the assembly, shows you all the information needed, and then in this panel, it shows you everything related to this particular measurement. And so, as you saw over here, the length, perimeter area, concrete strength, all of that's reproduced here. If your count, your length, your perimeter area, 37, and so forth, even the concrete grade, wire mesh, and so on. So, in this case, what I need to do the very first time in, Bridge is a learning system, I need to teach it the relationship between things so that it knows what to do in the future. So Sage is asking for an area, and I have an area, so I'm simply going to take that measurement and drop it in. It tells me it's going to use and map the area, and it's color-coded to help me see that. I have perimeter. I have a perimeter. Let's use that. If I have nothing else, I can just start filling in the spec like you would do over in Sage and say it's 4,000 psi concrete or whatever it is, all the helps there, etc. Or if you do have that information in your Takeoff, then you can also just map that. So if you want to, you can map all of it. And then all I have to do is say add the pass. It generates all the quantities. And then I send this off to Sage Estimating. And that's now in the estimating system. Now, to continue, I could grab a set of 3 of these, for instance. Let's go out to our multi-select, grab 3 of these next slabs, drop them in, and you notice it actually builds a set of 3 of them, right? They're all set. You can actually aggregate these so you can have maybe one assembly in Sage Estimating that represents much more detail over in your Takeoff system, so you don't have a lot of that extra information over there. You can consolidate it on the way over if you wish. That's one way to do it. You could do it this way too. You can use that measurement list we looked at earlier. And this allows you, instead of just working by the drawing, you could say, I've sorted this so I can see all the Takeoff across all of the project, so I can get all my slabs together in one spot. Then I could say, let's take these 3 section 2s from wherever they are and drop those in. And now I have all 3 of them again set up. But I don't even need to do that. I actually don't have to go back to the drawing anymore. The truth is that Bridge now knows how to handle this. It knows this object because you've done one of them and told it what to do. So if I go to the automatic mode, it will find them for me. And it says, here are all the slab measurements that you have taught me how to use. And I could flip this around and say, look at it by the Sage assembly and see all the measurements, or I can see each measurement and where it's going to go, your choice. And in this case, there are those 3 section 2s. So I'll grab those and drop them in. And in this case, I'm going to add all 3 of those together. Oop. Run into a problem here. I've got a message in my background here, but I can't quite get to it. Let's see. Well, let me I'm right in the middle. Actually, we'll see how well our database system works if I kill bridge here and start over. Let's take a look at what we had there for a message. Oh, I see. Something stopped in the background. So let me start that up again. And we will fire up bridge. And I think we're back in the running. We have our 3 passes. We'll add those 3. There we go. So let's just keep going. You notice everything was saved in the database. So whatever happened there, we are well on our way to continue. So now you can see these 3 passes, and you can see that it isolates them for me, each of those particular pieces, as I move back and forth through this. Now I'm going to do one thing different, and I'll show you this, explain it in a second, but let me make this fully automatic. And well, let's just send this over to the estimate. And what we'll do then is we'll now go into what's called the review mode. I'd like to see what I have sent over to the estimate. In review mode, it shows me the 4 takeoffs I've done. So you can see the takeoffs listed here in review mode. That shows me anything that's in the estimate, as well as I can click what's called the hide assign button. This button will show me.
Curtis,
yes.
Curtis, we're not seeing the bridge screen for some reason.
Oh, let's see.
We're seeing the drawing in the slabs, but the bridge screen is, we're not seeing that for some bizarre reason. Don't understand.
I wonder if if we can refresh and take the, why don't we take it back and then make me be the presenter again? Would that help? Or let's try this.
No.
Can you see it now?
No.
Okay, so maybe the presenter can make me the, yeah, try me as a presenter again.
You still are the presenter. Ah, now it's.
Can you see it now?
No. There you go.
Still can't see it. Okay, now you see it. All right.
Back. There we go.
All right, good. So in review mode, as you saw, I could see what was out in the takeoff, but I can also use the hide button to visually see what is available to me for remaining takeoff, as opposed to what I had already taken off, which are these 4. So this becomes very useful to give you a visual representation of what's left to take off, and you can verify what has been sent to the estimate. Now, finally, you may also maybe run into this where you have situations where you've got modifications to the drawing, and let's say that an addendum comes through and you need to modify this particular object, as well as perhaps change the spec too. So let's, pardon me, I got to get this screen out of the way here. There we go. And let's make this, say, 4,000 PSI concrete. So now I've modified this particular takeoff. If I go into review mode, Bridge will recognize that something has changed. You see these icons. This says unchanged, so all of these things, all these measurements are unchanged. This says it's been changed, and so we look at that and we'll say, well, let's take a look at what's changed. And so it will open up the details, and it'll show us that we changed the area, the concrete strength, and the perimeter. And so now I can say, well, I approve of that. Let's go ahead and apply the changes, which you notice now we have 4,000 PSI. We don't have 2,500 anymore. And let's just say that this was changed by me, for instance, so we can see later a note to ourselves, and then we just send this off to the estimating system, and that modification's been done. You can also go into the automatic mode, and because I had made this automatic earlier, you will be able to see everything else that the system has found. And if you categorize it as automatic, you can literally send it over to the estimate automatically with a click of a button, and all of that takeoff is now done because Bridge knows what to do with it. So if we close this and we go out to Sage Estimating and open up Sage, and let's open up that estimate that I was working with earlier, La Quinta, then you will see all your takeoff. Let's go into assembly order here. And now you see everything, all the takeoff, all the slabs, etc. You can review any of these. This is the one that had the 3 passes, you'll note. And so all 3 passes are outlined, and you have your audit trail that shows you that there were 3 pieces here. They're aggregated together into one assembly. Or here's the one that we did that I changed, and I can see right on the spreadsheet that it was changed by me. And when we review that, we can see that at 723 we had 37 square feet, 2,500 psi concrete. At 729 we negated that, and then at 729 it became 127 and 4,000 psi concrete. So again, a complete audit trail of everything that you're doing. And then finally, you are, let's say, in estimating, and you'd like to take a look at this object because you're not sure exactly what was going on. Every cell that has this little blue triangle basically says this came from Bridge, it came from Takeoff. And if you'd like to, you can simply review it by drilling down to Bridge. And Bridge will open up, it'll open up Takeoff, it finds the object, and then it opens up the details and shows you what's been going on with that. So that's a quick overview and very tight timing here. Sorry for the technical difficulties there, but basically you've seen eTakeoff all the way through basic takeoff functionality into assemblies. We've talked about the capability of using the favorites tool, WBS coding. We've seen things go to Excel, as well as, of course, the Bridge tool, which takes everything out to Sage Estimating. It can automate your entire process in turning that over to Sage. So if there are questions, I'm going to turn this back to Rob, and Rob, I'll let you take it from here.
Well, thank you very much, Curtis. So, Chris, are you with us? Are there any questions in the box that we need to reply to?
Not yet. If you do have a question, type it in for us, and we will be happy to answer it.
Yeah. Anybody at all? Well, Curtis, you must have done an unbelievable job. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I just got some questions. How do you take off pipe and fittings and inline specialties like valves?
Well, I don't have a database set up here to actually show you mechanical takeoff, but the electrical takeoff, mechanical areas, etc., there are all kinds of tools available for that. The process is similar in the sense that as you use these tools for doing the various areas such as mechanical or electrical for your takeoff, etc., the tools that we have you can add to. We handle just about any kind of electrical mechanical situation that you have, piping, etc. And so that usually isn't a problem. We can go into that in much more detail for you individually and show you how we can do the takeoff in those specific industries.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Can zones be names or numbers only?
Anything that you do in a work breakdown structure can be totally alphanumeric. So you can name them, well, as you notice, let's go back to the WBS control. Let me get rid of this tool here. In your work breakdowns, you notice that options available here. For instance, I have bid items, and you notice it's all alphanumeric and so forth. So you can name these visually by use of alpha if that is helpful, or use number coding if it turns out that that makes sense for whatever you've got there. So up to you how you label those.
Okay, the next question is, can we use our existing Sage database?
Yes. In fact, this, what you saw me use earlier from this takeoff with these objects is from an existing Sage database. You can see the structure out here is just the way it's laid out in Sage, and it's got the same numbering and names as a Sage system does. So what you saw me do in Bridge, this is a Sage database. When I go into the manual mode and you see this list, this is coming right out of Sage. So we were using, you notice, the same structure and using the Sage database, and there's a complete interaction and relationship there.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is, how can you take off devices, electrical devices, if it is a multi-floor building with similar floors?
Again, The concept of the search for instance, what I did in that first search where I found all of those detectors, once I start that search, I can then take that search and recreate it across as many drawings as I want, and it will search in the background and find all of those objects for you while you're still in the foreground doing your takeoff. So, and that's unique to eTakeoff dimensions. So we'd be happy again to show you that in detail in your environment and show you exactly how you can do the multiple page searches. And again, it's any object you want, whether it's mechanical, electrical. You can even create your own libraries of objects if you want, with your own pictures and so forth taken from drawings, elements in drawings you have. If you have a particular symbol that you use in the drawing or the architects use, you can actually grab that symbol and make it a custom search symbol yourself and use that for your own takeoff.
Okay, the next question is, so would it use our distinct phase / number / description?
Would it use what?
Our distinct phase / number / description?
Yep. That is, in fact, what you see here.
Yeah, you're just going to open up that database, basically, right? Well, we get together and show you. You'll open that database up over here in eTakeoff and teach it, like Curtis showed one time, the relationship between the takeoff and the estimating item. And once you teach it the relationship between the two, it remembers that and automatically generates it over to your estimate. That's a simplistic description, and we can get into that with the individual.
Here's an assembly over in Sage. I'm going to obviously these can get more complex depending on your particular situation, but this is a very simple assembly over in Sage. You can see it's called up right out of Sage, etc. I have the ability, if I'm setting this up and customizing it myself, to grab that and drop it over here and say that that's a wall, so that's typically a length, and we drop it into the length, and we can say, give it a special name. We'll say this is mine or whatever, and even create the extension, which makes it an assembly, give it a different color if we want or whatever, and let's say we'll make this one green, for instance, just so we can separate it. And when I click the button, I have a brand new takeoff element, a trace, that has the very same name, etc., as Sage, and I can now use that in a measurement, and you can see over here that it has the very same prompts that I do in Sage. Everything's already set up, brought right over, and then I can now take that and drop it right into the interior stud wall, and everything's there for me to map. So if I need my length, we can grab our length and teach it. It's the first time in. There's the height of the wall, and let's see, we've got our, grab that height, and our layers of rock, and our bad insulation, and our painting of the wall. And now I can compute this, get the quantities, send it off to Sage, and now the next time I want to use this again, and I use this wall, whatever it is, I could actually go out to the automatic mode. It'll find it for me if it's out there, if it's taught. And well, let's go back here and use it again and see what we get. Oh, the reason we didn't find it is we didn't fill in all the results, so we have to fill in our spec, etc. And now if I go out to the automatic mode, it actually, let's see here. Well, I'm not finding that right now. Let me see why not. Oh, yeah, there it is. And you notice everything is already coded now. Everything's mapped, and I'm ready for that production mode. I'm ready to go on. So you can very quickly use some of the tools in the system to actually build your library up and match what you have in Sage. And then there are, if you're a new Sage user, there are complete databases set up in Sage that are completely set up in Dimension also, with all of the same attributes, measurements, all mapped out. You literally are ready to go day one, start doing your takeoff, and send it right over to Sage.
Yeah, if you don't have a Sage database, you're not using Sage, and you decide to, we already have all of our data that we that we represent mapped through Bridge already. And we can help you map your data through Bridge if you'd like us to.
Any other questions?
Yes. In the building field, can we enter an assembly number? Example 4 GLO 1000.
Yes. That numbering scheme is totally up to you. So what you see here is what this particular database is set up with, 00-120. But you could, here's another example of a database. Notice this numbering scheme is completely different and different structure entirely. So it's totally up to what you want to set up as to how you want to number things and name them.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand you can drag and...
Go ahead, Krista, sorry.
I understand you can drag and drop quantities into Excel, but how can that save me time if I still need to make a template in Excel?
Well, you create the template once, and after that template is created and you drag those dimensions in, it remembers that linkage. Now, the next time you have a new job and you're in Excel, you can go to our add-on in the Takeoff side, and you could say select the current project, and now you pick your project, your new project, and that project is now linked. And if you do your Takeoff, all of the stuff that you've set up, every structure, every link, it will automatically be there already residing. You no longer have to create this structure. It can be reused over and over and over, so you can have as many spreadsheet templates as you want that you can reuse. And once you've created it the first time and dragged and dropped the specific values in and so forth, that can be reused over and over automatically. You never need to modify that template again. That's how it saves you time. First time you need to create it. After that, you reuse that template as much as you want, and it will function for the project you select.
Okay, next question is, we use Sage to integrate with Builder MT, both single family and commercial. Any experience with the product in this setup? Main use would be lumber, flooring, trim, electric to start.
Yeah, Builder MT, there are a couple things. Builder MT has looked at Bridge extensively, and of course, as you use Sage Estimating with Builder MT, if you're using Sage Estimating, then of course everything you've seen here applies to the home building industry also. Now, they also have their own tools over there, and they have done some integration work with Bridge into some other, I think it's an add-on tool of the type they sell. And so if you contact Builder MT, certainly they do have some knowledge of how Bridge works and how it works in the specific tools that you have with Builder MT. So there is knowledge there, and I would suggest just contacting them, or you can work with Rob through Builder MT. Rob knows the people at Builder MT also.
Yep.
Okay, if I have a list of multiple items and Takeoff items, how can I drag and drop all these items at once?
Well, if I understand your question correctly, remember that I was able to do that here, where I dragged everything from the second floor over to the third floor. And the trick there when you're looking at things to copy or move or whatever is simply a matter of, am I in this mode, which is the multiple or individual select mode? If I go to the Home tab, these are bigger buttons. Multi-select simply means that I can select multiple objects, or I could draw a rectangle around all objects and grab them, or I can use the WBS code to find everything coded the same and select it, or I can individually, select just one item at a time. So there are tools available to change how you grab items, multiple format. Again, if I wanted to grab all of this, I could go to the multi-select, grab it all, or I could just grab parts of it, right? Or just select, just individual pieces if I want. So again, that's all set up in the tools, but there are also tools, as I showed you before, with the favorites, where you can drop, multiple things and copy them, etc. And then also the WBS coding, which allows you to find things that are pre-coded and then select them all in a group based on the coding that you have already in the Takeoff. So multiple ways to select multiple items and then copy, move, change, etc. And you can use the move copy command to do that, to move things around and reorient them and so on.
Okay, do you only
Anything else?
Yeah. Yes, there's another one. There's a couple
Okay.
more. Do you only need to map the items and WBS in the bridge one time?
Yes, that is a one-time mapping. Once that mapping is done, it is permanent until you change it, and it is remembered across all projects. That's the beauty of the mapping. You do it once, you train the system, so to speak, and after that, it remembers all the mapping.
Okay. Sage must have these items assemblies created prior to bridging, question mark. If not, then what?
Well, as you saw, if you're using a database from Sage, then yes, you can get everything completely set up, including the entire library of Takeoff, and it's all linked through Bridge and completely set up to go. If you don't, and you're using your own database, as you saw what I did earlier, I actually created, by just dragging something out of my Sage database, I was able to create a new Takeoff trace that I could now use, and it has all the elements that Sage has. All the variables are listed here, etc. So you can use the tools in Bridge to help you create your list if you want to customize it. If you are using a Sage database, then you can get databases with Sage that are completely set up, everything all the way from Takeoff into Sage Estimating, and all of the Bridge mapping is done and so forth.
Okay, the next question is, would I use the summary items box to drag and drop all items into Excel?
No, not the summary. Well, we may just be having a difference in terminology, but if I go out to the measurement list, which is this, I also am able to take everything that you see here and just copy it. I can put it into a Windows clipboard or whatever, take it out to Excel, take it out to Word or whatever, and drop it in. Again, you have that ability to take out of this list. You can summarize things here, reorganize them, sort them, etc., and then just copy paste anywhere you want in any other system that allows drag and dropping, copy pasting. But if you use the tools specifically as I was doing it, then you can actually set up templates also, in Excel. And then once you create the template, that becomes your master. You just copy the template, give it a new name for that project, and then you go into the Excel interface, grab our eTakeoff add-on, select your current project you're starting, and from that point forward, that project's linked to that spreadsheet, and it updates all of the fields that you've set up in the template you can reuse. So yes, you can either use the Excel integration, or you can copy-paste anything out of your reporting. And again, as I said, you can insert new columns, you can customize this thing, save the configurations, and then you can have a whole host of reports that you have set up. And then, as I said, you can copy, drag anything you see in here. In fact, you can take the entire sheet and copy it if you want. Okay. Anything else?
Next. Yep. What is the difference between the advanced and premier versions?
The premier version primarily has the following capabilities. It's the assemblies and the pattern search. So the pattern search and the assembly capability are the primary differentiators between the two products. There are other odds and ends, and we can go through that list with you, but the primary things are the Takeoff assemblies and the pattern search. Now, advanced, if you mix and match the versions, for instance, if you get one copy of Premier, which allows you to set up, let's say, all of your assemblies, then you could, for instance, purchase one copy of Premier to enable you to set up the assemblies. Once those are set up, there is a function within the system that allows you to, we go into settings here, that allows you to import and export standards. So you could export those standards from the lead estimator, let's say, who's responsible for modifying and creating the assemblies. You can export that into everybody else's copy of advanced, and then they can use the advanced system to do the takeoff with the assemblies. They just can't modify or add or create new assemblies. That is only inside the Dimension Premier. Now, what you could do, for instance, some people, let's say you've got 3 estimators in your company. You could buy 1 copy of Premier and, well, let's say you have 5 estimators. Here's an example of how you can do this. You have 1 copy of Premier, 4 copies of Advanced, and maybe it turns out that you need the search capability, the auto count. So maybe you have 2 copies of Premier, 3 of Advanced. And then you can get License Manager, and now you can share those 5 copies amongst as many estimators as you want, and they can either use the advanced version or they can switch to the Premier when they need to use the pattern search, but everybody can use advanced for all the access to the assemblies as long as you have that 1 copy of Premier to create them. So there's a lot of mixing matching you can do to save cost and utilize the capabilities of both of those systems at different times.
Okay, does eTakeoff have any? Yes, does eTakeoff have any built-in reporting?
Primarily the reporting that we have is what you see in the measurement list. And again, as I said, you can customize this. You can create other columns. You can get down to your work breakdown codes, everything. Build these as columns. You can sort everything, subordinate sorts, etc. You can save these configurations. You can summarize things, etc. All of this can be reorganized and sorted, and you can save these. This becomes your primary reporting methodology. If you wanted more, then I would rely on Sage Estimating's reporting, or Excel, for instance. You can use that, of course, as your output reporting too. But as far as all the measurements and so forth, all of that can be done through the measurement list.
Are the prices listed one-time fees? What is the annual maintenance cost?
The prices listed are, this is sold as a one-time software purchase, and so you purchase a license for the software, and then there's about 20% is the annual support maintenance fee, and that gives you Sage full support on phone as well as the email, phone, as well as all of the updates you would get while you're on a Sage support plan. Rob, anything else on the Sage support you would want to add there?
No, that's what it is. It's unlimited telephone support. It's maintenance and enhancements and upgrades and updates to the software annually. 20% of the price of the software. And by the way, just as an aside, the bridge is an optional module, let's call it, and that is $500. So basically, if you invested in eTakeoff Advanced, it would be $1,450, including bridge to Sage Estimating, and the Premier version is $23.95, which includes the Premier version and bridge to Sage Estimating. And we can talk more about that offline individually, and I look forward to it.
Okay, we have one more question. Can we import and use only part of the database, for example, electrical only, if we don't need the other templates?
Yes, you can customize that however you want. That's all user controlled.
Is only one bridge needed, or is a bridge needed per seed?
Technically, you only need as many bridges as you have people simultaneously working on estimates. Once bridge is up and running and one estimator is using it, someone else wouldn't be able to use it. So you could share bridge, meaning that if somebody's using it, sending somebody the estimate, then somebody else gets on a bridge and does their work with their estimate or whatever. Generally speaking, most people purchase a copy of bridge for every copy of Dimension, just so that you don't necessarily have to share that copy, but you could technically manage that if you can on in your work environment. You could share it.
And that
just
would be
actually you could go ahead.
Yeah, you'd use. I'd recommend you get License Manager if you want to manage it, have less bridges per eTakeoff, but then you should use License Manager so that it helps manage all those licenses.
Okay, I think that's all the questions we have for today.
That's excellent. So, Krista, how do we, so we're going to email to everybody that was signed up to review this with us, recording of the presentation, so thanks a lot. And we would like very much to meet up with you to get into deeper